Yes.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the NCDA FCD
Hmm.
instructor webinar. Today we're going to be
Yes.
focusing on
Does
chapter
Tuesday work better
12.
for you guys?
Today we're going to be focusing on chapter 12, and we have two of our outstanding instructors with us, Carrie Ave. She is on the
Let me look at my
Training and
calendar.
Education Council. And then we've also have Brett Anderson, who is formerly on the Training and Education Council with us today.
Let me know states one
And
more time.
We have someone not muted. Can you make sure you guys are all muted?
I muted her. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about that. But thank you both very much for agreeing to do this webinar for us today. We appreciate you all very much. And of course, I'm thankful to all of you that are participating in this instructor webinar. This has been a really great webinar series, and it's been really nice to get to discuss the chapters and best practices. So on that note, Carrie, I will turn it over to you.
All right, fantastic. So I'm really happy to see everybody here today. And I'm especially excited that we have Brett Anderson joining us today too, because this is, one of his many areas of specialty, but one that he's incredibly knowledgeable in. And so he's prepared some slides today that will help you give some more insights to each of you too in this specific topic. So as we're out there instructing, others on this on career development for justice involved and individuals that are justice involved, he's also going to be able to answer some questions. If any of you came, I hope that you did come with questions. Brett and I both have experience working with the justice involved population. I'm going to go on to the next slide. Just a quick intro of myself, and then I'll have Brett introduce himself. So you see all the different acronyms, right, that we have behind our name there. I'm currently the CEO of CareerWise Consulting, and I was formerly a director of an LA County America's Job Center, where veterans and individuals that were formerly incarcerated or justice involved individuals were definitely a priority, as well as then moving on to a role as a director of a California community college. So that's a little bit about me. Brett?
Thank you, Carrie, and thank you, Marianne, for both the warm introductions. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. It's always good to see faces. That's always a pleasant experience. Uh-oh, did I lose you? Oh, no.
No, we can see and hear you.
Okay, there we go. For some reason, it just it went off screen. Okay, good. You guys are there. So, as you can see in my introduction, the similar acronyms, I think the one that matters the most, and this is what Carrie brought up, was the Offender Workforce Development Specialist credential. Have any of you heard of this credential in the past or in your experiences? No?
No.
Okay. So this is a program, the Offender Workforce Development Specialist Program. It was initiated in the late 1990s and early 2000s by NCDA and the National Institute of Corrections, which is a Department of Justice group. And the focus of this particular credential was to help individuals who were in the field of corrections, like corrections officers or reentry officers or probation and parole officers, to give them understanding and awareness about career development and how to improve career-related outcomes for individuals who are justice involved. As you can tell by the nomenclature, the Offender Workforce Development Specialist, that it was, it wasn't hip to the times, but it's evolved into that particular perspective right now. I got involved in the Offender Workforce Development Specialist program back in 2003, 2004. That's actually when I met Marianne. And she was, she was doing her phenomenal job that she always does in a very quiet manner, but very efficient, working all the bells and whistles of this program. It's a very rigorous program to go through. So, and then I became an instructor, and now I've been working with these types of individuals since then. So it's been 20 years It's hard to say that, but it's been 20 years. So hopefully, the experiences that I've had from that can benefit this conversation. If I cough, I'm overcoming a cold, so I don't normally sound like this. So if I sound like Barry White, it's not my intent. Unless you want me to sing, and then I'll get the mic and do my best. But yeah, if you hear me coughing, or I'll try to go on mute while we do that. Carrie, back to you.
Okay. So thank you, Brett. And so both Brett and I have been teaching the FCD curriculum for quite some time. I know I'll see some faces in here. I know some of you have also. So we're really excited to see what you bring to the table too, and your experiences in teaching this chapter. Can you guys give me just a show of hands or a thumbs up, or the one of the emojis or something, if this is a chapter that you always include when you're teaching FCD? Because I know this isn't a required chapter. Okay. All right. So just one, two, maybe a couple hands come up. So we got a little bit pop in. Okay, Tanya's got it also in the chat too. I think Eric, your hand went up. Okay, great. Because this is, it's not one of the required chapters per se, but I would say that whether I was running an America's Job Center or a college career center or in private practice, the knowledge covered in this chapter is imperative to be able to effectively serve clients, because if you can serve individuals that are justice involved effectively, it just makes all the other work you do even more effective. But I've even been asked to come into the California Community College system for their counselors, to train the counselors, because they found they were getting more and more students coming in that they were trying to help them get jobs while they were going to school, and they didn't know what to do. And so this chapter is a great resource if you have the opportunity to do that also in your workplace or in your environment. So here's the quick agenda. We just did our introductions. We got a few slides on FCD instructor resources, learning objectives, and competencies. Both of those we're going to go kind of really quickly over. We try to cover that each webinar that we do. I have a slide on what do you know? So we want to get some input to kind of get the level of where you're at in terms of this knowledge. In the interim, though, as you have questions, if there's things that pop up that you're like, this is what I'd like to know. Here's some questions I have. Feel free to put them into the chat as we're going through this, because as Brett starts going over his slides, we start discussing these. I'll try to facilitate to bring those questions back so that Brett and or myself can give you some suggestions and some information that might be helpful. That we'll go into a little bit of best practices. I'll introduce it. Brett is going to be running most of that, and then I'll have some that I'll be able to share from my experiences too. And then we're going to put you into breakout rooms. Marianne, you'll do that when we get to that point, right? You'll split them into breakout rooms, and you'll have 15, 20 minutes to really kind of share your own best practices also. And then we'll come back to the main room, and you can kind of report out on, the aha moments or the really key things that you heard or shared during those breakout sessions. And then we'll kind of, wrap up on that, share our contact information if there's any additional support we can provide. And before we do that, I just want to really quickly, if each of you, we have a small enough group, I just want to go through quickly, if you could each just introduce yourselves, and we'll do it popcorn style. So I'm Carrie, Brett introduced himself, Marianne introduced herself. So Adrienne, I'm going to have you introduce yourself next, and then you'll pick the next person, right? So just tell us, where you work, what your role is, and whether or not you serve the justice involved population.
Great. So Adriana Thomas, and I work at Washington State University in Vancouver, Washington. And I work with college students who definitely, some of them have a criminal background. And so placing them in internships and careers and figuring out, so I do want to learn more about this. I'm curious to learn. Thank you so much. And Paige?
Hi, thank you. My name is Paige McDonough. I am Director of Enablement at Cooter. Relatively niche FD instructor the last year and a half or so. I have not worked with formal. This is an area I'm interested to support, so happy to learn more. Thanks. And I'll pick Eric.
Hi, Eric Bergstrom, teach at on the faculty at Penn State University, and have in the state of Pennsylvania have a number of prison systems, as well as faculty and students that work within the prison system or within the community where there may be justice involved people. And my brother has been involved in justice involved processes, so that was kind of my interest, piqued my interest. And I will pick Cindy.
Hi, I'm Cindy Heck. I live in Wilmington, North Carolina. I am in private practice, Wilmington Career Counseling. And my real interest in this course or in this webinar is not so much for the FCD, but it's because I've been volunteering with Step Up Wilmington, and that is their focus, to work with the population that has been justice involved. So I'd like to learn more and perhaps pass the training along. And I'll pick Mary Gail.
Hi, I'm Mary Gail Mahalski. I do a couple of things. I work at Cleveland State University. I'm an adjunct faculty person there in the social work department. And I also work for the Ohio Bureau of Workers' Compensation in terms of helping injured workers who've had catastrophic workplace injuries get back to work. And with that population, there's a number of people that I've worked with over the years that have had some sort of justice involvement. So I have some knowledge of this whole process, but I'm interested in learning more. And I'll pick Paige.
Oh, Paige already went. Can you pick somebody else?
Oh, let's see. Now let's see. How about Alicia?
Hi there, I am Alicia Aker, and I work at Blackhawk Technical College in Janesville, Wisconsin. I'm our Career Services and Leadership Development Coordinator. And I work with students sometimes that are justice involved, trying to help them get internships, figuring out what type of career they could go into with their record that they have. And so I'm interested from that standpoint, but also just for facilitating the FCD to others. I'm going to do Popcorn Marie.
Hi, my name is Marie Smith. I live in Wisconsin. I work at University of Wisconsin Parkside in Kenosha, Wisconsin. I'm also self-employed as a career coach and trainer and instructional designer. And I do sometimes work with students who are justice involved, and some of the clients that I served are also justice involved. And I'm always interested in learning more. So I'm excited to learn from all of you today. And I pick Bob to go next.
Hi, everyone. I'm recently retired from Alfred University in upstate New York. We run a lot of graduate programs down in New York City. I also run and have run for a number of years domestic violence, intimate partner violence, batterers education program for offenders in Allegheny County, New York. And I do a lot of work also with the Northland Workforce Training Center in Buffalo, New York. And they work with a sort of a client base that I would call like pre-offenders. They'll one group that they target are young people who are just graduating or due to graduate soon and sort of interrupting what might be a bad journey that they're settling on, and provide them with a lot of technical skills training. So I'm involved with this chapter in a couple different ways, and hope to pick up a couple good tips today. And I pick Deandra.
Hi, everyone. My name is Deandra Prescott. I am an associate professor of counselor education at the University of Connecticut. Excited about today because we have some students who are justice involved, And we are trying to coordinate internships and things for them in the state of Connecticut. And so I think this could be helpful for that. And just always looking at improving the way I teach the FCD course. And I'll pass to Elizabeth.
Hi there. This is Elizabeth Craig. I am a Master Career Change and Job Landing Strategist, and I live and work in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, and Minneapolis, Minnesota. And I am one of these people, like everyone who's here, it seems. We like to learn new things, so that's why I'm here. Thanks so much. And I will pass it off to, is it Brett Anderson?
Yep, I've already gone, but
You've already got, oh, sorry about
but
that.
that's okay. That's okay. No, and then I'll get to pass it on. So
Thanks.
thank you for that. There you go. So Rebecca, have you gone, Dedman?
Hi, Brett.
Dr. Ded?
No, I haven't.
Oh,
Hi,
there you
everybody.
go.
Just joining late. I am Rebecca Dedman, Professor Emeritus, retired from George Washington University, and busier than ever and loving it, and just need to keep on keeping on and learning. Thank you.
So who's next, Rebecca? Dr. Dedman?
And I haven't been here but a minute, so I'll let you pass it along again.
Oh, okay. All right, I'll pass it along. Thank you for that. It's great to see you. Let's see.
I haven't gone. This is Rhonda.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Rhonda.
You're welcome. I'm Rhonda Norman. I am with Xavier University. I'm associate professor and department chair. Teach the career counseling courses. I also have a private practice. We have few students who are justice involved, but also in my private practice, I may see clients who are justice involved as well. And I'm always interested in more knowledge around this area. So it's good to be here. Thank you. And I think Debbie Hardy.
Hi everybody. I'm Debbie Hardy, and I am Dean of Students at Arkansas State University, Newport, Arkansas. And I work with college students primarily, but I came from an institution in the last year that worked with justice involved students. And mainly I'm here to learn more about what you all have to share. I facilitate FCD with the Arkansas Department of Higher Ed. Annually, we have a program we work through the state, career coaches. And I do see Marie, who is here as well, who was my facilitating trainer. So hi, Marie, how are you? Excited to be here.
It's great to see you.
Mary, would you like to go next?
Yes, I'm Mary McWillie, and I too have a private career development firm, a McWillie Career Directions, and I do run into clients for all different reasons in my career counseling, primarily alcohol-related arrests and even incarceration in my private practice. And at one time, I worked through a university at our federal prison, and Alexa, stop, excuse me, and put on, job development courses for the prisoners.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mary, so much. Steve, would you like to go next? I'm trying to get us through these a little quickly so we can jump into the content here. Oh, did we lose Steve? Steve Barber? Okay, how about Tracy?
Hi, I hope y'all can hear me. I don't know this first. I'm not really good at Zoom. We do Teams, so. I am Tracy Williams. I am at Tarrant County College. I'm the coordinator for career services, and I also teach the career advisors here at our college. So we do incorporate the justice part. I don't think we teach this particular module, but we do make sure it gets incorporated into our teaching. And yes, we do have some justice involved. You can't at a community college get away with not seeing some of these people.
Thank you, Tracy. Kathleen?
Thank you. I had to turn on my microphone. My name is Kathleen High. I've been an FCD instructor since about 2016. In my day job, I work at the California Community Colleges. I was a career counselor and general academic counselor at one college in Orange County for 9 years. Currently, my day job, I work at another community college, actually in the academic side, where I'm the instructor on duty for the main academic and tutoring centers. And I'm interested in this. I've had some people in my personal life who've gone through the justice system, as well as, you know, in the community college, we do encounter people who are justice involved. And one thing, Ava, I think you said you're from the California system. Are you familiar with the Rising Scholars program? Because my current school, we have somebody who runs that program, and I would like to, sorry, my kitty wants to join the conversation. She has lovely timing. I'd like to make a connection with our Rising Scholars coordinator in my particular department. Maybe we could set something up where we can help the clients learn how to respond to the explain your conviction question, because my experience has been that can be very stressful for these people, you know, because it causes them to relive their experience. So anyways, that's my background. I'm definitely interested in hearing what our presenters have to offer.
That sounds fantastic. Thank you so much, Kathleen. And then finally, I think we have Tanya Hall, and then we need to jump right in here.
Hi, I'm Tanya Hall. I am a college and career navigator at Dorchester County Adult Education in Summerville, South Carolina, where it's about 72 degrees today, and we're about to pass out because it's hot. I have been in this role since 2005. I was the first CDF hired in the state of South Carolina. Not that makes me an expert, it makes me old, is what I tell my students. But I work with many different entities within just students, with group homes, probation, pardon, and parole with the adults, the South Carolina Department of Corrections Youth Offenders Program. We have those on those parole officers on our campus. And then, of course, Department of Juvenile Justice. So, and I do incorporate this. I've been teaching this class for the state of South Carolina, probably for about 10 or 12 years now. So, but I'm always looking to add more and learn more.
Right, thank you so much. And I think I do see that we've missed a few others, but I have to take full responsibility for this. I probably should have saved these introductions for the end for anyone that wanted to do that. We're well into the webinar and we need to jump into the content. So if any of you want to connect, please put your contact information where you're at in the chat. That was honestly what I intended to actually ask initially, and then I went off track. So I apologize for that. So I want to jump right in here. This information, you can take a screenshot if you want. It's just an update on the, if you haven't attended the most recent webinars on the pricing, the minimum pricing of the course, the hours, the number of hours has stayed the same. We have the new manual out, which is really exciting. If you haven't seen it yet, the new instructor manual is fabulous. I love it. And then a little bit about the pricing, textbooks. Marianne, I think this was one slide I wanted to update. The digital ones are actually not $275, right? The digital ones are $250.
$250, and then there's no shipping and handling on those. So they are the most cost effective.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah. Okay, and then of the 12 competencies, the FCDI 12 competencies, these are the ones that we cover in this chapter and in chapter 12. And then these are the learning objectives. So I don't know if you want to take a screenshot of this or not, but if there's a specific one in here that you're thinking, or if this triggers something for you in terms of this is something I'd really like us to cover, please get it into the chat as soon as possible, and we'll make sure that as Brett's going over his slides, I know what slides are coming up, and maybe I can attach them to those different slides that he's doing so that we can ask those questions related to the specific slides that he's covering. So give you a second there to to do that. And okay, so we already kind of, in terms of your introductions, went into a little bit more about, you know, what you know about your the clients that you're working with. But these were some key things that Brett and I, when we discussed as we were preparing for this today, and these were some really important things that that we felt it was important to discuss today too. And so, Brett, you had brought up, you know, that it's important to know how your justice involved clients found them.
Yeah.
You want to explain that?
Yeah, so you know, the pathway for individuals to get to you is obviously multifaceted. And we have a lot of really experienced individuals here, and those of you who may not be experienced, you're very curious and you want to help. And you know, clients can come from a variety of areas, but it's really good to understand the pathways in which they get to you. Like maybe it's probation, maybe it's parole, so that you can understand what systems of support that individual has or accountabilities that that individual has in their efforts to find employment. So research that. Make sure you know. Find out from your clients, how are they getting to you, and how are they finding you. That's very important. I think oftentimes when we talk about the difference between a prison, a jail, or a detention center, a lot of folks, you know, their main resource is law and order. I don't think that that's always true. I think a lot of folks have a much more realistic understanding of how these things work. But we're going to talk more about prisons and jails and detention centers as we go forward, Carrie. So the background check, that is huge. I think this is one of the most important pieces of information that anyone who's justice involved needs to have, so that they know what their record says about them. Because if they don't know, then they can't really speak to it. And I think one of the folks during their introduction said that, you know, it's hard when you're trying to explain what happened in your background, because it can be a traumatic experience, and you know, you can relive that trauma if you don't really know what your background is saying about you, and then other people find out. So expungement, we'll talk more about that as we go forward, and then the rent safe background system and its impact. Any individuals, this is related to more where are employers getting their background information from? How are they getting that information to make a decision about what your background says about you? So I know we have to move forward. So let's keep going with the slides. One thing that I want to make sure that I emphasize is that all of you come from a variety of backgrounds. It's really important to know your jurisdiction, know your jails, know your probation and parole system, get to know how they work and understand them. There are a variety of associations that can help you with that, like American Jail Association, American Correctional Association. And some of them may have their own chapters within their states, but it's really helpful to know who's in your jurisdiction. This particular slide is referencing the new sort of political atmosphere that's occurring. In 2007, 35 states have reformed their sentencing and corrections policies through the Justice Reinvestment Initiative. So Adjustment Reinvestment Initiative, the whole purpose of this, when you hear this terminology, is these early release policies. And the main goal of the early release policies is to, first of all, fix the sentencing issues, but deal with individuals who have lesser crimes or things that would be deemed lesser, such as drug-related or alcohol-related crimes. Treat them differently than those individuals who have a serious offense, like a violent offense or a sex offense. So a lot of prisons and a lot of prison systems and a lot of states have made a lot of money reinvesting or pushing people out early. The reality is that a lot of these initiatives are in place, but there isn't really a system by which people can land more safely once they exit the criminal justice system, and then navigate all the things that they have to navigate to find employment, find housing, and do all that. So I left you the link, and I believe everyone will get a copy of these slides, and you can read more about it. But this is big because it's impacting every state, and states are making a lot of money by distributing people outside of the system in a different way. Thank you, Carrie, for moving me forward. And you can see that the total state imprisonment rate has dropped by 11%. Crime rates are continuing to go down. States have enacted justice reinvestment laws. They expect to save billions, and we really mean that, billions of dollars because of these reforms. The problem is that many of these areas that people go back to from a prison, a state or federal prison, is that many of them go back to jails or detention centers. And jails and detention centers they're different, they have a different purpose. Jails are not intended to house individuals in a way that reflects a prison. Jails are temporary places. You're not supposed to be there more than 365 days, although many people are there beyond that. And jails have become the de facto mental health institutions. And so you're seeing a lot more issues coming out of jails, and overcrowding has taken effect as well. And so individuals who come back and then they transition back from a prison and through a jail, they're going to have they're more than likely going to be exposed to some things that might impact or cause a barrier to their reentry through employment. Thanks, Carrie, for moving me on. The First Step Act, which is the federal Justice Reinitiative program, that was enacted in 2018, and its efforts were like what you see, to reduce recidivism and to, again, get people out. So far, the results indicate that nearly 30,000 individuals whose release has been expedited by the First Step Act, nearly 9 out of 10 have not been rearrested, and I have a slide to kind of show that. Yeah, you can move forward. Thank you, Carrie. So, okay, recidivism is a big deal. These individuals are not returning back to the federal side. It doesn't mean that they haven't been rearrested. It just means that they haven't been found guilty. Okay, that's a great thing. So these individuals are ready and willing to work. The BOP, which stands for Bureau of Prison, reports that the following figures on its website: that about 4,560 people have been released via compassionate release. Compassionate release, and you'll hear this a lot more. Compassionate release reflects individuals who are released because of their aging, their age situation, or their health situation. And the prison is just saying, you're not a threat to society, so we need to just go ahead and let you go, so you can, live out the rest of your life outside of the system. 7,239 people are serving the final portion of their sentence at home or home confinement, which again is another way to navigate around paying for people to be inside of a facility. And then 4,000 people have been released through retroactivity of the Fair Sentencing Act of 2010, which is again another purpose of it. So you're going to see people who come out of a federal system, they come out of a state system, or they come out of or they're in and out of jails. I think the biggest thing you need to understand about federal and state prisons is that federal prisons generally, now again, you got to know your jurisdiction and what's out there, but for those of you who've been to federal prisons, the type of inmates that they house typically are those who are involved in sexual offenses or white collar crimes. They're not always violent offenders. Those individuals typically are more going to go to a state facility, and obviously individuals who are found guilty of federal crimes will end up in a federal institution. So they're just going to be a different type of individual who's justice involved. Thank you, Carrie, for moving me forward. Can everyone still hear me? I'm trying to make sure I keep my voice intact.
Yeah, we can hear you, Brett. I also want to add on that his last slide too, in running the America's Job Center out here in LA, we had very strong relationships with the probation department, sheriff, police department. And one of the statistics that I remember when I first started working with the justice involved population really was that a lot of them that are coming out with additional issues with addiction that they didn't even have necessarily going in. And so being aware of these types of things, the comorbidity of their situation and other barriers that they now have when they come out is really going to be key in serving this population too. So going back to what Brett said in the initial slide about knowing, where they're coming from, can help you to have relationships with the would that be not the probationary office, but have your own relationships with those organizations too, for insights into the population that's coming out into the community.
Yes, thank you very much, Carrie, for that. And I think these statistics speak for themselves. Background checks are just becoming more prevalent. And even despite all the initiatives in chapter 12, there's the last couple of pages in that chapter are they introduce you to a lot of the environment that has been going on since the early 2000s, but really trying to help get people to have fair chances or fair opportunities. So the Fair Chance Act, at employment, things like ban the box or work opportunity tax credits and federal bonding programs, those types of things. Know that employers they're agreeable to doing those things. However, they're still going to do a background check, and a pretty thorough background check of individuals. So, these individuals are not going to be able to not have to explain their background. It's better that they come in and understand it and explain it so that they can be viewed less suspiciously. Okay.
And I just want to add along with this too, is that, when we're coaching, you have job developers in your classes too that are coming from workforce development as well as higher education, and being able to figure out how to get information out there before you even know what the job seekers, if they have a background or not. I ran into a lot of individuals that initially in job search didn't even realize they had something. So going back to what Brett said, they also don't have their background either, because some of them didn't even realize they had something on there. They're now 30, 40 years old, and here's a theft or something that was, years ago and I don't know, Brett, you can speak to that, when it's supposed to be removed or not, but the idea is knowing how to get the information out there to let people know, the job seekers know, hey, if there is something on your background, it's just, it's a barrier that we can help you to overcome. And so, knowing how to have certain types of conversations with the job seekers when they're interviewing and they're not getting jobs that all intents and purposes look like they should be getting. So this has turned out to be the case a lot, where there was something else in the record we didn't know about. Once you find out, then explaining to them. So I'll give you one example, and then I'll hand it back to you, Brett. I had one individual that I wanted to hire in higher education. He was a perfect fit for something I needed him to do. He would have had no access to Social Security numbers or any confidential information. He did have something on his record. He did not disclose when he filled out the paperwork for the college to come work for the college. The day before they told me that something had come up, he called and said, hey, I got to let you know there was something on my record. And my question to him, he had exposed it was a white collar crime. And I said, well, did you check at that point? Because we've made the offer to you. Did you then at that point disclose that you had something on there? He said, no, he was afraid that would exclude him. Well, as it turned out, what it would not have excluded him. But the fact that he did not know that he should have at that point checked the box is what stopped him, not just from getting that opportunity, but several prior to him coming to us. So that type of education is really going to be a key when you're training on this chapter. We go into how to talk to individuals, how to build that connection so that they let you know as soon as possible.
Well said, Carrie. Yeah, and the next slide kind of gives you the information about how long these things can be on your record. This is a general time frame, 7 to 10 years for criminal and federal checks. But I do know some jurisdictions that go further back. They don't do the 7 to 10 years. They can do it for longer. So, excuse me, as you can see, you know, there's a lot of things that are being checked when a person is looking to be employed. And I agree with 100% with what Carrie's saying, being upfront and knowing about that and talking about it upfront and knowing how to do that in a clear-minded and very not sophisticated, but at least in a way that shows you're authentic to what you're trying to get across is going to be most helpful.
Yeah, because they don't know when to divulge it. They don't know when to expose it. And even when I was
That's
running job clubs for individuals with felonies and misdemeanors, on the very first day, they may have gotten out of a jail or prison the day before, and they were sent to the America's Job Center. And I would get the question, well, how long do I already did my time? How long do I have to keep letting people know that I have this on my record? They really don't necessarily get out with all the information they need, or even 10% of it perhaps to inform them and empower them to be able to get back into employment in many cases.
Correct. Thank you, Carrie. These are some of the incentives. And this was a RAND study, research and development. That's what RAND stands for. So 59 out of 100 employers filing an entry level, trying to fill, an entry level job would consider hiring someone who has one nonviolent felony conviction with the incentive of a baseline tax credit. That's what the Work Opportunity Tax Credit has done. If you add the post-conviction certificate, which in the manual, it talks very clearly about what this certificate represents, then that percentage goes up 37%. So that's a good thing. And then increasing the baseline tax credit to 40% of a worker's wage increases that number by 30%. So you can look up what the Work Opportunity Tax Credit, but remember, kind of know how that works in your area. And I know, Carrie, I don't know if you have WOTC folks in the American Job Centers who can give you more insight, but I know we do in Colorado.
Yeah, it's hit or miss, but it really saves employers a ton of money if they're aware of it, and they have to have the form filled out before they even interview the person to get credit for it. So it's a great incentive for hiring. So if you have business service engagement people, or if you're talking about your business engagement chapter in the FCDI curriculum, talking about credits like that.
Well said. And so talking about business engagement, this is it's an emerging body of literature and research that's going on out there. And many employers are looking for fit. They're doing a lot of culture fit interviewing. And that's why it's so important for individuals who are seeking employment to kind of understand what this means and kind of have an understanding of what the landscape is. So these culture fit assessments is a research and operation related to the recruitment and hiring of employees whose beliefs, values, and behaviors are in alignment with those of the employer. So getting to know the employer is really important and very helpful. And like Carrie mentioned, if you have business service individuals who are there to help you with this effort, their ability to establish a relationship with an employer and understand how that employer's culture works will give them a better opportunity to not only place an individual who may be justice involved, but also allow that individual the opportunity to stay within there. So, and again, this research has gone as far back as the 1980s. So it's, but again, there's so much research out there that is just, it's not collective. It's not in a space where you have it, where there's a cohesive message. So I've done some research related to this, and I've worked with veterans who were justice involved and homeless. And so this is some of the data from that, just showing you what an employer fit algorithm can consist of. So what you see is the if you can go back, Carrie.
Go back, yeah.
Yeah, this the FFNPQ score. So the FFNPQ, it's the Big Five, and I know some of you are very familiar with the Big Five assessment. It assesses extroversion, agreeableness, conscientiousness, openness to experience, and eroticism. These are the sort of the primary or the core traits that employers are using in their employer fit algorithm studies. The specific level of functioning That's what SLOF, that's the impression management piece. Being able to get an individual to look the part, getting them a haircut, grooming, having the right type of clothing. And then the vocational locus of control scale is getting into that individual's cognitive awareness of, okay, what do I do? What do I need to be able to have responsibility for? Carrie, if you can go back one more time. I know we got to hustle, but what you're finding is that the p-value wasn't, it didn't find 0.05, but can you go back one? There you go. But the correlation participation, so these factors that are leading to consecutive days employed on the job, we're saying that 19% of why a person not only gets a job and keeps a job is associated with their conscientiousness score, which is a big factor in their big five, how they look, and then how they actually go about taking on the responsibility of that job or having the self-efficacy to believe that they can do it. Thank you, Carrie, for allowing me to work through that, because I know we want to get to an exercise where you guys can work together. These are some of the employment retention findings related to research. Federal and state prisons have a better opportunity to offer this kind of programming, like moral recognition therapy, which is evidence-based for this population. Thinking for Change hasn't been studied on this population, but it's often used as a way to get people to cognitively understand their role and responsibility in the transition. And these individuals who are primary case managers, whether they're pretrial, parole, probation, they're trained in motivational interviewing strategies and career development approaches. Sorry about that. That's what OWBS does a ton in helping individuals understand that. Okay, so Carrie, you ready to get them into the exercise? You're on mute still, Carrie, I think.
Okay, yeah, because we've only got 12 minutes left, I think it would might be a little bit hard to go into breakout rooms at this time, but why don't we do this? If you have if you could raise your hand, if you have a best practice for working with this population or for training in this chapter. And then if you have questions, go ahead and put them into the chat. And then we can try and address those. Brett, what do you think with now in the next few minutes that we have here, the next 12 minutes, putting them in breakout rooms and bringing them back probably wouldn't work.
It's going to be too cumbersome. Yeah, and one of the things that Eric, you still on the line? Eric Bergstrom? I know he sent us an email.
I'm here.
There he is. Yeah. So your brother does a lot of work with this, and as a best practice, Eric brought up something that I think is really important, and that's making sure that you bring in people who are subject matter experts in this area to your facilitation of this chapter. That's going to be always a very big help. Getting people who work with these individuals, like probation and parole and pretrial officers who are doing this work. That's definitely one of the biggest best practices that are out there. I don't know if Eric, if you can speak more to that.
Just a couple of real quick points. I think your point, Brett, about knowing your locality and your area is really important. My brother brought up in the state of Pennsylvania, the Clean Slate program that goes on right now. And it ties in with this Pennsylvania State Police, people that have been incarcerated, where people for nonviolent crimes can get a clean slate, which gives them a clean pathway to being able to get jobs. And it's a lot more in it, but I have the actual copy of it I can send out. The other thing is that in addition to teaching at Penn State, I also work with a consulting firm out of Philadelphia. One of my colleagues is involved in a prison ministry, and he's also involved with career transition. So he goes in and helps the prisoners, and then when they're released, he actually helps them on his own time try to get into jobs. And one of the things he's done has been to go to employers that he believes are sympathetic to at least listening to the person. Let the person come in and tell the truth, put their true story on the table, and see if that employer will give them a chance. So those of us that are interested in that kind of assistance for people, kind of creating a pathway and a level of success working with prison to work opportunities is kind of a rewarding experience. And it helps the employer find a successful, hardworking, great, happy person get into a job.
Yeah, well, that's excellent, Eric. And what you bring up is very much a tried and true best practice. Get to know your jurisdiction, know your employers, and do the work, do the groundwork to get people involved in that. That's excellent. Anyone else have an example?
Kathleen had posted in the chat a little bit earlier too. She was talking about individuals that end up with early release, like we saw in COVID, where a lot of people were let out because of COVID. But that's happening. Any different things will happen. Something will get passed, and then there'll be early release of individuals with certain types of that had committed certain types of crimes. Early release can happen at any time. And I know, Kathleen, you were asking about, that they might not get the chance to get into reentry preparation programs. What I would say is when we're doing our training, our FCD training, it's meeting each person that comes in with, individually, which someone else had mentioned in the chat too, where they're at, building that relationship with them, building trust as best as you can, because each of these reentry preparation programs, they are as diverse, and some of them very diluted, some of them very helpful, as you can imagine. And so one approach I've used is a strengths-based approach, so that when individuals come into our centers, looking at what's right first, because depending on their background, their experience, any job seeker that walks in, but in particular, these individuals, being able to focus on what's already going right for them in terms of what do you have? Okay, they come in just like a recent grad that has no experience. They might come in like, well, what have I got to offer? What do I tell them I've been doing for the last 10 years? Being able to focus on, well, let's talk about, what are your strengths? What are you good at? What do you like to do? Whatever you can draw out of them that's right, and starting from there, I have found to be really effective in working with the population to let them know, look, we're not looking for everything that's wrong about your situation. We'll help you overcome any barriers you run into, but we want to start with what's right with you and what you're bringing to the table and what you're going to bring to this next employer. We're going to help you define that, design that, clarify that, and get you to the next employment. So that the reentry, you're right, we had a lot, Kathleen, that came out, but it's, I almost look at it, they come to us and I assume that they've never gotten any support at all. That is my assumption. When they come in front of me in a job club, or they come in front of me as a coaching client or with my teams, we assume that it's ground zero for them, and we need to meet them where they are and go from there.
Yeah, and many of them,
I agree with you on that.
I think going into using the ABC model, any job, better job, career is always going to be a good way to look at that as well, because sometimes, it's not often, but sometimes these individuals just don't have a robust experience with employment. And so they can't really tell you what a strength is or not yet. And they'll get there. They just have to get more experience. So we just got to get them into the work world and have them do that. But maintaining that relationship with them is vital in order to do that.
Looking to see if there's other specific questions. Yeah, there's lots of great suggestions in the chat. If you want to take a look through that too, is, multi-tiered program and coordinating efforts, I think is really key. We knew, employers don't want to stand out there, at least in my experience. Most employers don't want you to put them on the list of, yes, hi, I'll hire your justice involved individuals, even if they will. And so people would come and say, well, what employers can I go to? My job developers, my team, we built relationships with those employers.
That's right.
Knew. So I could tell you, okay, here's an employer down in the valley that if you show up, and you might even have something in your system from the last 90 days, if they did a drug screen or something, this employer is going to give you a chance. And let's figure out where you're best fit for that organization, and then making the introduction to that opportunity for them. But all, you know, all of these pieces have to come together. So I love that you put that in there, Cindy, about, you know, having a very multi-tiered effect or approach. And I mentioned strengths, but strong, you know, I'm not necessarily talking about, although we have a chapter right in FCD about assessments, but I really like the appreciative inquiry that Bob also mentions there, appreciative inquiry, strengths-based approach, because they don't have to know anything about strengths. They don't have to understand how they tie to the workplace. It starts more with what, you know, what they feel they're good at. Okay, you can't think right now, what did you used to be good at? What did you, when you were younger, you know, take them wherever you can to try to find out what are those things. If they were incarcerated for a long time, you know, what were some of the things that you focused on when you were in there that you focused on? Did you get to do any training? Did you, trying to find out what lights them up, because, you know, you won't have any clue what it is until you get into the conversation with them. And then you'll see something that lights up and they're like, oh yeah, I had a chance where I got to work in the prison library for a while and I loved keeping things organized. Right. And so you're tapping into those types of things. I love that appreciative inquiry too. Don Schutt has a book through NCDA that goes into appreciative inquiry for those of you that might not be interested in that. You're right, Bob. They've been told for so long what's wrong with them, kind of atoning for their previous actions, probably inordinately more of that than here's what's right and here's what's going to help you in the next stage. So do we have any other best practices or questions? I don't see any more questions in the box. We've just got a couple minutes left.
That was definitely drinking out of a fire hose, right? So,
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And Cindy, is your hand up or were you okay, Cindy, you have a question?
In one of the earlier slides, the term rent safe system was mentioned, and I'm not familiar with that. Could you explain, please?
Hi, Cindy. Yeah, that's a system by which renters, they use to do background checks on possible renters. And that's oftentimes where employers and renters are combining or collaborating to find out what type of background check or what type of information is in your background. And rent safe is just a one product. There's other names for it, but what you'll find is that if you can do a background check that includes if you're going to rent an apartment, you might find information in your background that may not have shown up on for example, an Arkansas Bureau of Investigations report. So you may want to get the one that's going to talk about where you can live, because that one has a tendency to be more. It just reveals more information.
You know, and you know, the more you serve this population, the more you'll know, the more research you do, the more training you get, obviously, the more that you'll know. There's so much out there that we can't even tip the iceberg with our chapter, you know, the FCDA. And that's why trainings like, you know, Brett's OWDS training and others that are out there, there's conferences or workshops at conferences. NCDA has had workshops at our annual conference before on it to really encourage participation, because when you don't know, just like with any diversity in our society, if you're not exposed to it, if you're not have not collaborated with an individual that has personal experiences in whichever area of diversity we're talking about here, it's really hard sometimes to understand their experience and to provide the best support for them. So I really encourage everybody to get out there and learn and grow as much as you can in this area. Having run a job club for 5 years for, like I said, individuals with felonies and misdemeanors, I felt like I saw and heard it all, but I didn't even hear a tiny bit of it. And we had individuals that had nothing on their record for years, and then something was, what's the term for it, Eric or Brett, where all of a sudden it's not hidden anymore. Now it can be seen. So they went for years with nothing being there. Now all of a sudden it's on there again, and they're out there trying to get a job after being a stay-at-home parent or something for 10 years. there's more scenarios than we
Yeah.
could cover in this.
Yeah, and I know that in Adriana, she talked about expungement, and the chapter does a inside chapter 12. There's a module on expungement. I would just get to know your jurisdiction, number one, but just know that expungement is a very controversial issue. In it, when you've been convicted of a felony, not a misdemeanor, but a felony, or you plea bargained into a felony conviction. Expungement is really difficult, but it's promised a lot. It just may not necessarily be the reality. And that's why it's really important to know what comes up on your background check. And I know we're out of time. I just wanted to make sure I responded to Adriana. So talk to what Eric talked to, what his brother does, the sentencing law individual, and get to know folks in your jurisdiction about how that process may be working in your court system.
So I want to thank all of you for coming today and participating in this. You have the contact information for Brett and I up there. I have known Brett for a while. I know, just like myself, if there's some question or something you have, we are both very welcome to hear from you and to provide any kind of support we can. As we're winding up the chapters for these FCDI webinars, I want to encourage you to email us or let us know what else you would like to cover, because we're going through all 14 chapters. Once those 14 chapters are done, we'll go on to other topics. If you want us to go more into a specific area, let us know, and we can help you out with that too. We want to continue to support our FCDI instructors in any way that you want support. So thank you all so much for coming. Mary Ann, did you have a final word for us today?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you both to Carrie and Brett. I know this is a huge topic to cover in an hour, and thank you both for agreeing to touch on this. And I'll echo what Carrie just said. If there are other topics you want us to focus on, and this may be another great option to do another webinar on justice involved and maybe get into some more specific things. So please always email me ideas for that. And thank you all again. Thank you, Carrie and Brett. I appreciate it very much. Thank you all for attending. And on that note, I think we're good.
Oh, one more question, Mary Ann. So if anyone has to jump off, that's fine. But I just noticed one more question on here too. Marcella had said, are there approaches to guide this population towards entrepreneurship? I can tell you, being an entrepreneur myself, since a very young age as a teenager, this is one of the tactics that with certain individuals I find is the most effective. Quite honestly, in this day and age, there is so much they can do, so many online businesses and different things that they can do to really support the individuals in generating income in a positive way that's going to help them to not return to jail.
Yeah.
We want to, the objective obviously is to help them to be able to stay out and resume their lives, pick up or continue on. And so, yeah, there are lots of different approaches to that. If you want to talk about it more, go ahead and reach out to me. I'd be happy to talk to you about it, Marcella. That's one of my
Thank you very
passions is
much.
entrepreneurship
Okay,
for
I
income.
will.
So I'd be happy to. You'll find a link on LinkedIn and you can schedule a time with me that way, and I'll talk to you anytime.
I will. It's very interesting. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. Sorry about
Thanks,
Mary Ann. I just
everybody.
didn't want to leave a question unanswered.
Thank you all. Have a great day.
Bye.